No matter who wins the quarterback one job, this offense will be a headache for opposing defenses.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, after 4 practices now, there are several surprise standouts that I think are going to elevate the level of this team. But I know one thing. This offense is going to be an absolute headache for opposing defenses. They've been a headache so far to Vandy's defense during practice. So there's a fierce competition for quarterback one as well, and I think that's going to be something that's ongoing. So here's the thing: an offense is only as good as the quarterback for the most part. And last year, Vandy really they lacked quality quarterback play, and that probably goes for various reasons. Whether you want to say it was, I don't think it was talent, but whether you want to say it was scheme, lack of identity, some talent deficiencies. There's a whole combination of things. They're not going to get into that. That's last year. This year, there's quite the battle going on. Nate Johnson remains the most talented quarterback on the roster and has really gotten off to a great start. But Diego Pavia has taken a minute. He's taken a minute to settle in. He had his best day on Sunday. He was dialed in. And this quarterback battle is important for a lot of reasons, right? This quarterback battle is going to reflect how this offense is going to perform, because I think when you look at quarterback battles and how they kind of shape out and how they kind of impact what the offense is going to look like, I think there's something to that, right? I think it does have some correlation to how it performs, because if you have like a really good fierce battle where it's like one guy gets ahead and the other one answers the bell and then the other one answers the bell and so on and so forth, and they're just dueling and out-dueling each other. When you have that type of situation, I think that you're gonna look back at it and say, okay, well, if these two guys are dueling, they're doing everything in their power to make sure everyone around them is dialed in and set up for success, because that is what it's going to take for this offense to not only move the ball, but to be successful in doing so. So, like I said, Nate Johnson, early lead, has looked quite impressive in all facets. But Diego Pavia Sunday, man, he was dialed in, man. Red zone, he was great. He had total command of the offense, was making really good locked in throws, throws that we saw him make at New Mexico State in his highlight reel. Just things that we knew that he could do to take over this offense. I think he's finally kind of settled in enough to be able to do it. And I think that anytime you kind of get off to a rocky start, you start that little bit of doubt starts to creep in. And when you're not on and you're a little bit off at the start of camp, and you know that this battle, like, that, hey, on day one, my competition over here, and even though in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I know I've got this because I'm a 2-year veteran in this offense, but when it's not guaranteed, that does a little something to you. So you either get amped up and a little bit nervous, or you just kind of whatever the case may be. That's what Diego Pavia was going through. Nate Johnson has been in the system since the spring. He's been kind of in that catbird seat, in the shotgun seat there, coming out of spring practice. So he's a little bit more comfortable. So that's a little bit natural for him to be more comfortable and be a little bit better and a little bit more sharp, because he's had those reps with these guys. In this system with the Vandy guy, he's had the most recent reps in the system with the most recent group. Pavia has not quite had that yet in an official capacity. So it took him a minute, but now he's fully comfortable. This thing is really going to start to kind of build and build and build, because you're going to see guys that are, that are going up, making plays. You're going to see receivers running routes extra hard. You're going to see the offensive line, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit, is really going to shape this thing out as well. It's going to come down to, like I said, from the jump, this thing is going to come down to the mental aspect of it, right? Who can check you in and out. Now, right now they're doing installs according to Tim Beck, so there's not much checking in and out of things. But when they get into like live scrimmages, they're going to be looked at to see, okay, can you check us out of a bad play? He might actually call some bad plays on purpose to see if they have the ability to check them out and check them into a good play. They're going to see pocket awareness. They're going to give them some situations, some pretty tough situations, and see if they can march down and score, like a 2-minute drill, like a red zone gotta have it drill, those type things. And so when you're evaluating these quarterbacks, it's truly neck and neck. And I'm not just saying that to be politically correct, because I don't want to name a starter yet, because somebody from Virginia Tech might be listening, or I want to keep the suspense. No, I wholeheartedly believe this thing is actually neck and neck. Whereas coming into training camp, I didn't think it was neck and neck. I didn't think there was much doubt. I thought that Nate Johnson would have to play to the absolute ceiling of his abilities, and Diego Pavia would have to fall apart for this thing to even have a chance, because of what Pavia brings to the table in advance of this season, playing under Tim Beck and Jerry Kill. But that's not the case now. Nate Johnson is proving that, experience is great, but like, you get a dynamic athlete that has a lot of tools and a lot of capabilities from the quarterback position, it makes a difference, right? Because he's shown also that he's able to digest. And that's one of the qualities that I really like about him. He's shown that he's been able to digest this offense, and he's shown that he's been able to lead a little bit. And I think that, again, that stems from him getting all of those reps in the spring, especially a lot of those reps with the ones. He's had Tim Beck and Jerry Kill essentially to himself, if you really look at where this quarterback battle is. Blaise Berlowitz and Drew Dickey, they're in the race, but and in any other circumstance, they would actually be viable options. But right now, it also looks like that Pavia and Johnson are really kind of separating themselves from the rest of the pack in that regard too. So, it's no knock on Berlowitz, it's no knock on Drew Dickey. They're just in a race with two guys that are absolutely blowing it out of the water. And so it's you hate to see that for Drew Dickey, and you hate to see that for Blaise Berlowitz, who are talented in their own right. But that's just, I think, where we stand right now. And so both these guys impressing. This thing is going to continue to rage on, and this will be very, 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 very fun. And so when they make a decision on who's going to win this battle, I think you'll really see this offense take off. And the direction of the offense will vary slightly based on who it is. Like if it's Pavia, it might go like this way. And if it's Johnson, it might go this way a little bit, depending on who wins and what they're, what they deem is the best fit. So whatever the case may be, the offense is going to be a headache. That's just absolutely true. The offense is going to be a headache, and Tim Beck used the word balance, and that's the buzzword. So what does balance mean? We'll tell you next. All right, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, are you watching? I got a question for you guys. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you having this same problem? Like you have to turn down the volume because of all this shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. That's what you need to do. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So why is this offense going to be a headache, right? I've said that. I've mentioned that. I've kind of alluded to that in previous episodes since fall camp has started. But why are they such a pain in the butt for Vandy's defense, and why will they continue to be a pain in the butt for other defenses? Well, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of factors that go into this offense. We talked about the quarterback one job. Whoever wins that is going to be leading this offense and is going to be the main reason why. And I think that this offense is going to be so dynamic. And here's why. Okay. And Tim Beck was interviewed, and he was after practice, and he really was, again, emphasizing the qualities of the quarterbacks that are in this competition. But, he said, quote, "The important thing is to have good balance. It's somewhat of a chess match going against what you think they're going to call in certain situations. When I say balance, I'm talking about ... We don't know how many times we're going to run it or throw it going into a game, depending on what we're getting defensively. We're not going to be stubborn and stand there and keep throwing it if they got 4 or 5, 6 great pass rushers. It's the same if they're going to load the box. Can you take the runaway? We're not going to stand there and hand the ball off." He went on to say some more things. But for the most part, he reiterated the fact that they're going to base this thing situationally. So when they're talking about balance, right, they're talking about getting the right people the ball at the right time. So it's going to be getting the ball into the hands of your playmakers when you're able to get them in the situations that are presented to you, right? So if they're taking away Junior Sherrill, and he's having, they're going to go elsewhere to try to open it back up. So it's being flexible enough to play that chess match that you need to play when defenses are kind of taking things away. So true balance, and a lot of people will define balance as 50% run, 50% pass. That's balance. No, that's not balance at all, because you might only have 2 guys touch it. Balance, to me, is getting as many playmakers an opportunity to impact the game as possible, given a situation. So balance plus flexibility allows you to be able to maneuver the ball wherever it needs to go. If it needs to go outside because the defense is presenting that to you, by all means, get it outside, get it out to the perimeter, let's roll. Okay. If a defense wants to give you a light box, you better be running it, right? If it's 3rd and 8 and you can surprise them a little bit, or if it's 3rd and 8 and situationally, what they're going to give you, that allows you to be able to get the ball into the appropriate playmaker's hands, whatever the situation is, whatever the defense is presenting in that given situation. Balance is key. Balance leads to an explosive offense, right? And going full circle back to the conversation at the top of the show about the quarterback one job, part of what's going to be evaluated with these guys, and really mainly Pavia and Johnson, but what's really going to be evaluated with those guys is, are they going to be able to help this offense achieve balance? And what does that mean? They've got to know, in this situation, I have to anticipate this, I have to anticipate that. And if I don't get this or that, I've got to be able to check into this and get us into a great successful play. Or sometimes taking the L and punting is not always a terrible thing. Although if you ask an offensive coordinator, if you have 0 punts, that's a dream scenario. But punting is not the most awful thing you can do. You don't want to do it over and over and over and over. You don't want the punter to get tired because he's punting too much. But it's also, if there's situations where it's okay to set up for a punt, play field position, it's certainly okay. And so that's what kind of makes it a headache for defenses. That's why, because there's a little bit of unpredictability in achieving this balance that Tim Beck wants to achieve. Because when you're in certain situations, I think defenses really have to make decisions on, okay, what do we want to close down in a given situation? That's where the chess match comes into play, right? Because now the defense has got to say, okay, on this situation, I anticipate you're going to do X, and the offense does Y, because the offense anticipates the defense to take away X and has set up a play for them to take away X, so that they take away X and you can hit Y, right? And so those chess matches continuously go on, and that provides a lot of headache because you have to, with this headache that he's gotten with these situations and the play calls, he's got an offense built to be able to stretch you this way and this way, vertically and horizontally, so that you have to make a decision on, okay, am I willing to give up this to stop this? And that's where defenses have kind of come to, right? We need to limit the yards we give up for the most part and give ourselves the best opportunity to make havoc plays. And offenses are like, how do we capitalize off that? How do we get them into more predictable situations to where we know they're bringing pressure from here, there, or wherever? So that's balance. Balance is knowing balance and flexibility. Balance is like making sure you're spreading the wealth, really, making sure you're getting your playmakers and getting guys involved. Balance plus flexibility is knowing when, how, and where to get your playmakers the ball in a given situation, and being able to do that appropriately. That's balance. Okay. So that's one key element here. That's why it's going to be a headache, because defenses don't really know what to take away, because if you have balance, if you have true balance, you got multiple people involved, which means multiple people can hurt you. So that's what you're doing there. So you're able to pivot, you're able to adjust, you're able to do things situationally based, and not have to worry about, I need to feed Cedric, I need to feed Quincy, I need to, you're feeding guys in situations and letting the stats, letting the reps, letting the impact come to them instead of trying to force it to them. Now, in some situations, if you have a big 6'7" tight end like Cole Spence, maybe you want to force one in there to him because he's a massive target, and there's some situations where you can get those. But again, that's being situationally aware, and that's being flexible enough to pivot to something like that, and being able to be, brave enough to say, hey, we know that we're going to go to Cole Spence. Can you stop it? Right. It's that. And then, of course, the surprise plays, the shot plays, things like that, the trickery, some of the option stuff that keeps defenses guessing as well, is things you sprinkle in there to kind of throw them off the scent. Tendency breakers, shot plays, trick plays, things like that, gadget plays, screens. Screens are always great. Great tendency breakers for super aggressive teams. So, there's a lot of cool things that you can do there to achieve balance. So, in order to know how you're going to achieve the balance, you got to know what quarterback you're going to have, which there's a really good fierce competition for that. And I'm here for it. But it's going to be a headache, for defenses, because I think Tim Beck's offense is they're in a good place. They're in a good situation. They have it together, I think, and they're going to be really, really good. So But who's standing out? Like, who are the guys? One of the questions I'm curious about, and I know that you're curious about, is who's standing out? We'll tell you about that next. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want, because there's the Olympics going on right now too. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers. That's right, all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, welcome back. We are close to wrapping up the show here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. I appreciate you. Locked On Vandy. Couldn't do it without you every dayers, man. Could not do it. This is phenomenal. Make sure you make Locked On SEC your next listen. Or if you're really feeling froggy, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On LSU, Locked On whoever. Just go through the schedule. Just give a few of those shows a listen, just to kind of see what they got. You can be like, hey, I'm going to go check out the Locked On Vols podcast and look at the season preview for the linebacking core. I don't know what they're doing over there, but something like that. If you want to be the most educated fan base in the league, you might have to do some things like that. I don't know about going over to the Vol channel, but there's other ways, I guess. But thank you, like I said, thank you for making me and us at Locked On Vandy your first listen. So, talking standouts, lots of them, and some guys that I didn't know were going to stand out. Not saying that they're bad, but also some guys that I'm like, okay, all right, I'm intrigued now, and this is coming from an article on 247, Vandy 247, by Robbie Weinstein. And I think we've got some really good resources now that have woken up a little bit with Vandy athletics. I think VandySports.com and Vandy 247 are both pretty darn good resources, and I enjoy reacting to these pieces. And so I got to say that first. Okay. So you can read along while you're listening to me, but there's a long way to go between now and the 31st. So a lot of practice between here and there. So, and there's some actually some other battles going on the field. So the first of which I think some guys that are standing out is the offensive lineman. And I'm really excited about this offensive line because when you look at what they're doing, the transfer guys are really making a name for themselves, and I think there's three of them that stand out. I think there's some interesting moves happening that I'm kind of surprised with, but then again, there's a lot of experimentation going on with combinations of different offensive linemen. So I'm surprised, but I'm not. Grayson Morgan, I think, is an odd man out. First of all, unfortunately he's dealing with some injuries, and the other guys are taking full advantage, unfortunately. But when he gets back, I think he'll factor in as well. I think we're gonna develop some really good competition there along the offensive line. But so far, right now, Chase Mitchell is looking like a home run at the left tackle spot, which means you can bump Gunnar Hansen in to left guard. And I think that's what's been going on right now so far. I think that's the best combination on the left side that Coach K has found so far. And then Stephen Lasoya has taken the center position and kind of run with it. And then guard Stephen Hubbard from UTEP is also turning some heads. He's a massive dude. And apparently he's proven himself. and he's really endearing himself to that offensive line group, and he's really kind of standing out. So I think the 2 guard spots are kind of locked down right now. I think right now all you have left really is the right tackle spot, and who's going to fill that. And that's been kind of the one that's been up in the air and could go any direction. I mean, Cade McConnell could jump in there and really kind of take that one by it, kind of take that bull by its horns, I guess. So, that's impressive as well. And so, the offensive line is retooled a little bit, and they're playing some really good football, which means that they are going to be a lot better this year. They're going to be a lot more aggressive, because if they're not, they're going to be out. So they have to play hard, and they're going to be more on the same page. I think they're just being set up better for success. Not saying they're going to go 12-0, but they're set up way better for success this year. All right, some other guys on the offensive side of the ball that are really standing out is Bryson Coleman as a freshman. He's somebody that is he made catch of the day, I think, on Saturday. They were doing like a 7-on-7 or a 1-on-1 drill. He's 6'5". He went up and got one. I think he was falling. He was kind of falling away and spinning. He reached out with his left hand and just snagged it out of the air. Pavia was throwing it to him. I don't think it really mattered. The quarterback was just kind of sitting there flipping the ball to him. But that play was impressive. Tristan Brown, also somebody that's incredibly gifted, showing off his speed a little bit as well. So though he might have an opportunity in this, it's a really crowded receiver room. He might actually have an opportunity. And of course, Junior Sherrill, I think, is making some noise now. Finally, somebody that he's not a transfer; he's an incumbent. But he was kind of the forgotten guy, because we're like, hey, it's Micah Bell. Hey, it's Jeremiah Dillon. Hey, it's Loic Foungy. Hey, it's Demarion Wiley. Hey, it's all of that. But we forget about Junior Sherrill. And right now he is penciled in as the number 1 slot receiver. He can play outside, but again, he's somebody that does really well in the slot. He can, if he shows that return ability, he can run jet sweeps. He can do a lot of things, crossing the field, running some interior routes, things like that. So, look out for him, because I think he's going to have a massive year if he can keep this up a little bit. And then, of course, Cole Spence at tight end. We talk about Eli Stowers, and he's certainly been standing out as well. But here's the thing with Cole Spence. He's 6'7". So he is also a good, capable inline blocker as well. So he'd be great in the run game. But in the RPO game, in the pass game, red zone target, in the middle of the field, he's somebody that honestly, and I've seen, and what I used to see, and I'm not, don't act like I'm about to compare him to Tony Gonzalez, but like something I saw Tony Gonzalez do that I thought was really cool that he could do was he would just go in, he would just find like the closest linebacker. He would run right at him and then turn around and like put his butt into him. Like he was like boxing him out for a rebound. And that made it such an easy target for him, for the quarterback to throw the ball to him. And he made millions of catches just doing that, just bodying people like it's basketball. Cole Spence could do the same thing. I'm not saying that he will. I'm not saying that he's Tony Gonzalez by any stretch, because Tony Gonzalez is the greatest tight end in NFL history, arguably. And so I think with Cole Spence, he is proving himself to and endearing himself to be a really solid red zone target. So other guys that have been standing out, when you look at it, Randon Fontenette, somebody I'm not surprised with. He's a really physical guy coming in from TCU. He is the number 1 star as of right now, which is like the field outside backer safety. Kind of like the detached linebacker that's always going to probably play to the wide side. that's going to be kind of in coverage situations most times. He's 6 foot 220. He's an absolute hammer. I think this would be a good position for Dericky Wright too, unfortunately, because I think he's behind Dante Carter right now at safety. But defensively, also Brian Longwell as the inside linebacker, opposite of Langston Patterson. He has, let's just say that he said, you know what, this inside linebacker job, yeah, it's mine. I'm going to take it. And he has. And he's been impressive. He's from Lipscomb Academy. He's got good coverage skills. And he's really shown that he's improved that after having some tough goes last year, which I don't know how much of that was coverage skills or being put in bad situations. I don't know. But he's clearly the top performer there. CJ Taylor, should we really list him? It'd be more of a surprise if he wasn't performing. So he's just going to be, he's going to be a clear starter here somewhere, everywhere. He's a dude. He's an absolute dude. So those are some guys that are standing out for this defense. And of course, the kicker, man, shout out to the kicker, Brock Taylor, making Jeff Lepac's job a lot easier there with going 6 for 6 on field goals. If you can get automatic points out of him and he becomes reliable, that's a weapon too. So, but anyway, really good first week of practice, honestly, really successful. Lots of buzz, lots of positive news coming out, lots of competition, starting with the quarterbacks and moving on down the list. Guys are getting after it. The competitive spirit's there. The energy's there. It gets sharper by the day. And I think this team is locked in. I don't know what that means for win totals, except for if you took Vandy at 2.5 wins on FanDuel, you're probably gonna cash out. So I love it, man. And we're going to continue this thing rolling. Our next episode is going to feature the next practice. I mean, with fall camp, it's going to be fast and furious with practice updates and things that are changing almost seemingly by the day. So if it feels like my opinion's changing, it probably is because of the situation. So, but anyway, that's all we got for you today on the Locked On Vandy podcast and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen. Thank you for joining us. Let's have a great week. A lot of people are going back to school this week, including myself. We get kids on Tuesday. So, but anyway, behave yourselves, anchor down.